this country starts early. It works hard. It stays focused. It keeps moving. It stands ready. And it carries the weight. Strong coffee for a strong nation.
There we go. Welcome everybody back. Appreciate y'all coming on a special lunch beyond the possible. Of course, we got James, the Salsido Paranormal back, and we have a special guest. We got Matt, Deep Woods Paranormal. How you doing today, Matt?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Yeah, I'll let him in. I got Uncle David here. We're going. Uncle David's
nice.
gonna come join us.
Good afternoon.
Hi. How are you?
I'm well.
Hold on one sec, guys.
Yeah, no problem.
Hey, can you get them quiet? They're just barking. Gosh. Sorry, I got a dog pound here.
That's all right. It happens.
They're going ballistic for some reason.
I see Sweets is in the chat already, and Bad Nurse. Yeah, it's spooky time. We got.
Holy crap! They're going absolutely berserk out there.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. You said you've chased ghosts for 30 years, I think. Remember right?
I've been researching the paranormal, since I was a little kid. I've experienced it since I was a little kid, but I've been researching it since I was about 19 with my wife. We started going to said to be haunted places like the Queen Mary. We went to Hollywood. Oh, here comes the door. Dogs don't like it when I close the door. And different places like that. The Whaley House. I grew up in California. So any place that was said to be haunted, we went and visited on weekends a lot. It started out just with friends, and then that show called Ghost Hunters came on. And next thing I know, everybody's pointing at me going, "That's you, Matt. You should go help people." I'm like, "Oh, okay." At that point, back in the early 90s, I mean, all we really had was like we had a 5-megapixel digital camera. That door is... I'm pretty sure an animal pushing that door open, not anything else. Although this room is haunted. There's a lot of haunted objects in this room.
Nice.
So, yeah, we started investigating different haunted locations like that. And then I started out with like just no gear at all. I had a camera. I think we did eventually get a digital audio recorder. When I first started out, we had a cassette tape recorder. The little tiny ones that you could put the little mini cassette tape into. And then we had like a big VHS camera that you put over your shoulder with the actual VHS cassette tape. And that's how we started researching the paranormal. And basically back in the mid-90s, mid to late 90s, other gear started coming out. It was expensive as hell, but we started buying audio recorders. Like my first audio recorder was sorry, he's defending the house. Was about $600. It was a Sony audio recorder, and the quality on it was great. But I had it for like 7 or 8 years before I switched out. And but yeah, I mean, most of our gear was super expensive. And as time was going on, we met ghost hunters on the Queen Mary one year and bought a K2 meter from Chris Fleming. That was right after he had done the Manson murder house, or the house next to it, actually, which we actually got to go into when we were working with a producer. We got to go in there and talk to the owner, and he let us come in and investigate, which was cool. The Sharon Tate murders. He was super obsessed with Sharon Tate, and he was for sure that she was there. And then, of course, what it doesn't show you on the show is that's Indian burial ground as well. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of activity already. And them digging into the side of the mountain there and building homes just basically caused the activity to spike. Actually, you got a kitty too. But, yeah, so we after that, we basically started helping people in their homes, and we became a TAPS family member team, and started just helping people. We became the team in California for a long time. I ran the California Ghost Hunters, and yeah, I got to become a full time job. I would go to work, come home, basically, spend my night breaking down audio, video from the weekend before, turning it back over 3 or 4 days after that, sitting down with my team, going through all the evidence and seeing if anybody got similar things or what everybody thought about the audio, the video, whatever. And then, because as a TAPS family member team, your job is to try to debunk everything. And I hate that word, but basically rule out anything that isn't paranormal. And if whatever you're left with is what you're left with. And 99% of the time, we could debunk most of it. But there were some audio clips and some things that happened that we just couldn't basically deny. One case out in Brea, California, we had way too many audio recorders. Everybody had at least one or two audio recorders at this point in time. This is about 8 years into basically the team being going. And I think we had 15 audio recorders out, and some of them were so close to each other, they were like 10 feet away from each other. We had one at the bottom of the stairs, and then basically you went up about 3 stairs, and if you went straight, there was the master bedroom, and to the right, there was the master bathroom, right? So as you go up these stairs, and then you turn left, and you go up about 15 more stairs, and then that's the top of the landing for the bedrooms upstairs. So there was one at the bottom of the landing, at the bottom of the stairs. There was an audio recorder in the bathroom there. There was one in the master bedroom. I don't know how that happened. We put 2 so close together. And there was one on the top of the landing, because they were saying that was an area where there was a lot of activity, the master bedroom and the stairs and the top of the stairs. And I think we had a camera somewhere close. But just not facing that area. I think there was one in the bedroom. There was a DVR camera in the bedroom and stuff like that facing out. Anyways, long story short, we we're getting ready to wrap up, and we did something called settling, where they told us, okay, for the first 45 minutes to an hour, you just let the video, audio, everything run. You get out of the house, you let it just sit for 45 minutes to an hour. So we went out and went to dinner. And we came back and we didn't notice anything. And so we're listening back through the audio. And I had said right before we left, I just put my audio recorder down in the master bedroom. Where are you at? I think I said either where are you at or where are you girls at? And this little girl's voice, and I didn't hear it at the time, it said, behind you. And it shows up on 4 different audio recordings. I'm like, well, what in the world is that?
Wow.
And so we could pinpoint exactly where it came from. It came from the master bathroom. And so essentially they went, a couple years later, they were doing some renovations, and they found a body of a little girl buried underneath the master bedroom. She had been there for 20 plus years. I guess the serial killer had left her body there, and the police went in and found her. And so they finally were able to put her to rest. And also on that case, we were actually doing an AVP session where we're recording audio and listening back later, where we were asking, is there anybody, we can basically, bring in to talk to you, or is there anybody you want to talk to? And this male voice says the next door neighbor's name. And we had no idea who this guy's name was. It was pretty clear. It was definitely a Class A EVP, and a Class A EVP means that basically you can understand it. It's not gibberish. It's not not a bunch of white noise in there. It's basically really clear, so you can actually understand what it says. And if you showed it to somebody else that didn't know what an EVP was, they could sit there and listen, hear that voice, and say, "Oh yeah, I can hear what that says." Anyways, it turned out that the gentleman that lived there previously to the people that live there now, and this is 20 years ago. They don't live there anymore. He had a heart attack and died in the house, and he was really good friends with a neighbor. And so we brought the neighbor over. We went back the next day. We went to show them, and we brought the neighbors over, and they had a full-on conversation using the K2 meter. And we were telling him that we're sorry you passed, but you do need to go, and we were able to cross him over. And yeah, we had a lot of cases that were crazy like that. The more we researched, the more crazy it got. In fact, the more that I've researched the paranormal, the deeper this rabbit hole gets, as you guys probably know. You know, it's insane the kind of stuff that happens. The more evidence you put out there, but yeah. So we live in Texas now, and I basically finished with the California Ghost Hunters back in 2014, 2015. We were going nonstop. I had 4 teams, literally. I had 30 people on my team. That's how many people we had, because we had people answering phone calls. We were literally like the TAPS family member team. We were like ghost hunters, essentially. That's what we were set up as. So we had people taking calls, people screening calls, people returning calls. We had people, going out investigations with us. Sometimes we go out 2 or 3 teams that go out on the same, day or weekend, Friday or Saturday night, and we'd split out in 3 different directions. I mean, I had 4 DVR systems. I think I had 20 K2s. I think I don't know how many audio recorders, 10 or 15 audio recorders myself. I had 5 or 6 handy cams. And then everybody had at least one of their own. And we just went, and started, I just got burned out of it. I still help people in their homes, but not as much. But yeah, we just went. We got to go in some really cool places. We investigated ships, businesses, homes, land. You name it, we've probably been in it. And it was an amazing ride. It was a lot of fun. I think the California Ghost Hunters are still alive today. I don't know who. I did end up pounding it down to one of my other people because I didn't want it to die. That was with me for a long period of time. She was with me for about 10 years. And yeah, just loved it. And then I went on to do ghost tours at a place called Black Star Canyon. It's a very haunted canyon up in the Santa Ana Mountains in Orange County, California. And then basically had my first Bigfoot encounter, and realized Bigfoots were real at that point in time. And so they got into that, and then soon after had my first UFO encounter, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. Just a word to the wise: if you ever get a really good UFO video, do not post it on your YouTube or your Facebook account. They will take them down. Oh my gosh. I spent a year trying to get my Facebook account back up, and I spent another, 6 months after that trying to get my YouTube account back up, and they never did put it back up. They wiped everything off my account. They just closed my account, gone. So, yeah, I had almost 60, 70,000 viewers back in the late 90s or early 2000s, whatever it was. It was the late 2000s. I basically was just doing tours and stuff like that, and going out there and shooting video as much as I could out at Black Star Canyon. That place was extremely haunted, and it got to the point where I could go out there and I could communicate with the ghosts and use them to try and find Bigfoot. It got so silly that I would walk up there and, hey, have you seen any Bigfoots today? Any big hairy creatures? And the K2s light up, and I'm like, okay, where are they? Am I getting close? Am I getting hotter, colder? Stuff like that. I'd walk in, and then you'd have like a tree branch snap, and I'm like, oh, yep, okay, I'm getting close. But yeah, Black Star Canyon was amazing too. I started going up there quite a bit, and then San Juan Capistrano over by the Mission. If you've ever seen that Ghost Hunters episode of it, we never got to go inside where we actually could investigate inside because they wanted to charge us $20,000 per hour or something like that. It was some ridiculous amount. Wow. They don't like it. They don't like the ghost hunting part of it. They're very against it. In fact, they didn't even like me doing the tours down there, but they couldn't stop me. So. Because I wasn't doing anything illegal. But yeah, it's I've been like I said, I've been through a lot of places. Queen Mary, God, we used to spend Min and I used to spend every weekend there almost. It seemed like we got to investigate with Erica Frost and stuff like that. And in fact, I've had so many different crazy encounters on the Queen Mary. It's not even funny. Room B340. This is probably 25 years ago. We were in there when we first started with the California Ghost Hunters, and we were down there in room B340 in the middle of the day. It was kind of warm in there. They had the windows open or the portholes open, so you could kind of get some air in there. And the air conditioning was flowing, and we spent a long time in there. We spent an hour and a half in there. And what people don't realize about room B340 on the Queen Mary is it's actually 2 rooms. And so the guy literally murdered his family, or murdered his wife, and then left his child in the tub. I think he tried to drown her in the bathtub, and I don't think he was successful, but he killed himself, I guess, in that room as well. And so essentially, if you go into the room B340, the room on the left is actually room B340, excuse me. The room on the right was something else. But so we're standing in there, and I have another investigator in the room on the right with me, and we're standing there, and we're leaning against the wall, and everybody else is on the other wall on the left side of the room. And there was just nothing. It didn't feel like anything. There just wasn't anything going on. And I'm like, this is weird. I mean, this room is supposed to be haunted. There's supposed to be poltergeist activity in here. The bed unmakes itself. Things move in this room. Lamps have flown off the table and flown across the room. They've actually taken the carpet out of there. They've basically stripped the room down to almost nothing because of all the activity in that room that goes on. So after about an hour and a half, we're like, everybody's like, Matt, we need to go. We want to go somewhere else. And we're with Erica Frost. Everybody wanted to go down to the engine room. And so we're like, okay, hold on. And back then I didn't have, like I said, I didn't have a whole lot of gear. I did have a little 5 megapixel camera that I just started out with. And back in the day, that was the, really expensive camera. Anyways, we used to take a lot of pictures when we went out to the haunted places to see if we get something on film. So we're walking out, and we're walking up B deck, and we're about halfway across the ship back down to the middle of the ship, and I just kept feeling like I was being watched. And as we were walking out, the room got thick and heavy, which is usually the sign of something paranormal activity is going to happen. Maybe something will move, or you'll hear a voice or footsteps or something. And it just felt like we shouldn't be in there anymore. So we finally just got up and left. Another investigator next to me could feel it as well. So we get out of there, and we're walking up the B deck, and I turn around. I'm like, there's just something weird about the end of that hallway down right by room B340. It was down at the very end on the left. And so I was told, always take more than 1 photo. Take 10 in a row. So I took 10 photos in a row. And I didn't see it at the time, but there was actually a shadow standing right outside room B340 with its arms crossed. Like, it was just like, what took you so long to get out? Also got a picture of a woman with a long flowing dress on that deck as well, a long time ago. Unfortunately, I don't have any of this video. Again, like I said, be careful what you post on Facebook and YouTube, because my computer was also wiped. That's how I know it was serious. Happened as soon as I plugged in my external hard drive and was trying to download some evidence from a case, and then everything just gone. My computer went up in smoke. So,
Yeah, can I interrupt real quick and ask you if you know or if you remember what color, if you were able to see, was the dress?
the dress in the picture was white. It was kind of
Okay.
transparent. It was just
Okay.
long and flowing, and you could kind of make out the silhouette of a woman with curly hair, blonde curly hair. So
Okay.
yeah, but yeah, just crazy.
Yeah, I was
But
just curious because I've found a couple of posts online from people that said they had experiences where they saw an apparition of a woman in a green dress there. So
yeah,
that's why I was curious about that. But
yeah.
doesn't mean it wasn't there. It doesn't mean anything. Just was curious.
Right. Well, back when we were investigating, you could get into almost anywhere at any time. I mean,
Mhm.
went into places. We accidentally went into places we weren't supposed to go. Literally
no.
walked into the wrong place. We were walking through, and they said, "That's fine. Just walk wherever you want, as long as the doors aren't locked. You're good." So we ended up in the pool room, where the so-called first class pool was, which is actually the second class pool. A lot of people don't know that. That's actually the second class pool. Where the first class pool is now where the theater is. And Erica Frost told us that. And she's like, no, a lot of people mistake this. But we were down in the pool room, and essentially we could hear someone walking around. And when we were looking down, we could hear like the footsteps, but you couldn't see anything. And today, on I don't know if they still have the ghost tours at the Queen Mary, but I know that they faked the voice of the child,
Right.
and then also because they have speakers in there, and so we all had our audio recorders going at the same time, and I'm like, okay, let's see if we can all catch her voice at the same time, and pretty much we all did, and a friend of mine also went and did the same thing with like 4 of his friends, and they all caught the same voice, and they're like, well, this is fake. This is just under. They have this playing just under what you can hear, and they have cameras in there, so they know when you're in there.
Right.
So yeah, but anyways, I do think that she haunts that area. I think there's like 12 kids that haunt the Queen Mary, and it's not just the one. But she's also seen up in the theater area, because we went up there and we had an experience where our K2s started freaking out. They were going off like crazy. And I'm like, okay, we did the sign of the cross. We went up, down, side. Couldn't find any EMF. But right in the middle, of the air, there's EMF. Nobody had their cell phones on, at that point. I think we did have cell phones back then. But yeah, I mean, basically we were trying to figure out where this is coming from. We couldn't find it. But she communicated with us and was pretty cool. And she let us down into the engine room, believe it or not. And it's cool. I mean, there's a lot of residual energy on the Queen Mary. I mean, the last time we were there, we went back about 4 years ago, and we had a lot of cool experiences down in the engine room. They've taken all the boilers out, unfortunately, but there's a little box area where the person that was leading the tour, he took us in there, and everybody had just left. We were still kind of hanging out in there. We were given special privilege, and we had the K2s on, and I think I had a spirit box. And we didn't get anything through the spirit box. I don't really like the spirit box anyways. I think it's not that great, but we have a ghost box now that's way better. If you're going to invest into any kind of a box, get a ghost box. They're so much better than the spirit box. They're just, way better.
What's the difference in
clear,
them?
Yeah, much clearer. I mean, I've had stuff come through the ghost box that's like, what the hell? Voices just like I'm talking to you right now. Anyways, we'll get into that maybe at another time, but anyways, so we're sitting there with the K2s, and we have 3 K2s sitting right next to each other, and the one starts lighting up, and it's a nurse that used to work on the ship during World War II. And I guess she had, I don't think she died there, but she had helped a lot of soldiers that had, been in the wreck of when they hit the other boat, the other ship going to England. And so they essentially, she was just, telling us how she still loves the ship. She still loves being there. She still kind of wanders the ship, and she really enjoys it when people interact with her. And she was just really happy to have us there and stuff like that. And so we went back in after that. We left a little box down there, and we went out, and we were just walking around, looking around, and you could hear what sounded like something working on the engine. You could hear clanging and banging and like all kinds of noises, and there's nothing going on down there. There's nothing on down there, but you could hear them like working on the engine and stuff like that. And so I remember one year we went during Halloween, and they had all the Halloween decorations up, and again, I was just taking pictures with a camera. I wasn't taking, I think I actually was using a cell phone at that point, a cell phone camera. And so we're walking through down in the engine room again, and there was a gentleman, he was a firefighter, and basically they had a drill where they would basically have all the fire doors closed, and they would just slam shut and lock. And you only had, I don't know, I think it was like a minute from they would start on the one side of the ship and they would basically go across to the other side of the ship. So if there was a fire, they would just automatically start closing. And this guy was racing another guy on one side. They were each on one side of the ship, each opposite ends of the ship, or other side, opposite sides of the ship. Bear with me, my allergies are killing me today. And they were racing. And so they were running through, I think his name was John. And so they were running through, trying to get through these doors before they closed. And John, unfortunately, didn't make it. He got to the last door, and as he tried to jump through, he got caught in the middle, essentially, and crushed to death. So I was taking pictures in the engine room in an area where the doors were, and I thought it was a Halloween decoration. I was looking back at it like 6 months later. I used to review evidence all the time. I just go back through and look through photos and stuff like that just to see what I missed. And I'm looking at it, I'm going, wait, this guy's transparent. I thought it was like a decoration, like you would see like half a body hanging, like half an arm here and then a full arm on the other side, upper torso essentially, hanging from, the ceiling, hanging down from the ceiling, and you just see this head, and you see a body, you see like part of half of an arm, and then another full arm on the other side, and like half a torso, upper torso. And I'm looking at it, I'm going, that's a cool decoration. And then I'm realizing, wait, what's holding it up? There's nothing below, and there's nothing above. There's no strings or anything. And then I realized, oh my gosh, it's transparent. And it ended up being a ghost. So I'm like, oh, all right. But yeah, I mean, very, very cool. That place was amazing. We loved going to the Queen Mary. But yeah, we spent a lot of time there. We would go, and one time I woke up, we spent the night there with a bunch of friends. And so we had dual beds. I think we were in one of the suites, in the president's suite or something like that. And I essentially was asleep, and somebody said my arm literally kind of went up like this and kept, like something was trying to pull me up out of bed. And I was laying on my left side, and it kept happening. I finally got up, and I'm like, I don't know who I was talking to. Maybe I was dreaming or whatever, but I said, stop doing that. And I yelled at them. Woke everybody up, got back into bed, and they saw it happen again. And I just pulled my arm back down, and then they woke me up. They're like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Were you dreaming?" I'm like, "I don't remember dreaming about anything." And they're like, "You literally got up out of bed and yelled at something." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, "I don't know what I could have been yelling at," but yeah, just strange activity in that location. But yeah, I mean, like I said, we spent a lot of time out there. If you ever get the chance to go out to Black Star Canyon, I'd highly recommend it. Just be very careful out there. There's all sorts of paranormal activity out there. You got ghosts, you got possibly demons, although I never really came across anything like that. A lot of people warn about that. You got Bigfoots. I've heard there's possibly Dogman out there now, which is crazy. And what else is out there? UFO sightings, a lot of UFO sightings, although I think a lot of it can be contributed to planes coming into JFK. I'm sorry, Orange County, John Wayne Airport. But after hours, some of that stuff could be considered military. I know the military does a lot of training out in that area, out in the mountains out there. So I know they do special ops and whatever else. But yeah, it's a really cool area. Like I said, I kind of grew up with ghosts and stuff. But anyways, yeah. So Texas is a completely different place. I noticed, Orange County the ghosts are pretty crazy out there, but they're nothing like out here. It seems like there's a lot more intelligence out here. As I've done my research, I think that the older the spirit, the more they can do. They can move things. They can communicate better. They're more aware of what's going on around them. And that's not to say that there aren't spirits out in Orange County that aren't like that too. We came across quite a few that were highly intelligent. But yeah, so we moved to Texas here about 6 years ago now, well, maybe 7 years ago. So when we first moved out here, I was like, okay, I think I'm done with ghost hunting. We're gonna try and put this away. Um, we're gonna, kind of just do something else. And so essentially, we were at a restaurant one day. It was called the Smitty's Cafe, and it wasn't just a cafe. They had it was a large building. A lot of buildings out where I live, they're old and historical. They've done a really good job of keeping the old towns. Like we have downtown Bryan right next to where we live. We're like a mile from it. And then Smitty's Cafe is out in Navasota, and they've done a really good job of maintaining that old town. Those old buildings are like from the 1800s, pre-Civil War, and stuff like that. So they're the long, skinny buildings that if you go into Old West Town, you basically think you would see. Not they're more brick buildings with maybe siding. I mean stucco on them. But anyways, so that's kind of what they look like. They look like it's a true old town. Anyways, long story short, so I left a card and a ghost hunting card with my cell phone on it, and didn't hear anything for like 6 months. And I'm like, when we went in there, I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna take a chance. We hadn't done any ghost hunting out here, and so I'm like, okay, maybe they didn't. Maybe they weren't interested. The waitress was very interested. She's like, I'm gonna show this to my manager, and we'll see if you can get you guys out here, and all this other stuff. So I'm like, cool, okay, cool. And then nothing. So I'm like, okay, this is crazy. So 6 months later, I get a call. Hey, I'm the manager. I'm sorry, I found your card. I completely forgot about you. Blah blah blah. You guys want to come check this place out? And so I'm listening to her talk, and I'm like, holy crap, there's a lot of activity out there. And so you never know until you get out to these locations, because most of the time you get out to these locations, there's absolutely no activity at all. This is probably one of the most active places I've ever been. And so we're there, and then we have our K2s out, and we have our video cameras ready, and we're putting up cameras, security cameras, basically DVR cameras, to monitor everything. And we've set them only to motion now, instead of recording constantly, because going back and trying to review a bunch of evidence, video, that usually there's just not much in that when you review a DVR camera. So if you can get something that moves, like a shadow or whatever, that's pretty dang good. So we investigated this place, and we had a lot of activity that night. We heard a disembodied voice of a little girl. We could hear somebody working in the kitchen. So the other side is a bar, and then basically the one building is basically a cafe, and then a bar on the other side. And then on the left side, on the other building, which they basically took the wall down between, they have a billiards area, and then above that is just storage. And then on the side with the cafe and the bar, above it they had like a live band area. They had an open area up there, like a loft, where they would have bands come in and stuff. And so we investigated that whole area. When we were sitting downstairs in the bar area, we could hear somebody walking around upstairs. It was crazy. It was like, doot, 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 doot. And we're like, what the heck? And we caught it in audio. And a couple of cameras caught it too. The motion cameras didn't catch anything at that point in time that we knew of. But most of the upstairs was basically just storage. They had a lot of old stuff up there. This actually originally was an old Sears building. It was pre-Sears. There was basically was a merchant shop originally. And the owner, after the Civil War, people in Navasota basically did not like the North occupying the building, or occupying the town. And so they kicked the North out one night violently. And so the North, as they were being issued out, essentially, they started burning buildings down. and the owner of this shop died in the shop. Supposedly, he was not a very nice guy. He was very short and stuff like that, and he had a peg leg on one leg and stuff. Anyways, I'll get back to why that's relevant in a minute. So, as we were there, we could hear like the pool balls being smashed back and forth, and we're like, "What the heck?" And there was no pool balls over there. They would pick them up at the end of the night, and they would rent the pool tables out for people to play as they're having a drink or whatever. Anyways, at one point they had a little gambling machine, and it turned on by itself. And we went over there; it was unplugged. I'm like, what in the world? So as we kept investigating, we caught some shadows bouncing around over by the pool tables. For some reason, two little kids were over there, and we caught them behind the bar and stuff like that. You just see two little heads like bobbing, bobbing along like this, behind the bar, and then you see them over by the pool table, and you could hear them giggling and stuff. It was the craziest thing. I guess somebody had got a picture a long time ago of little kids over by the pool table, and they thought it was demonic. And it turned out, thank God, it wasn't. But so yeah, the as we went on, we investigated there like 7 or 8 times. My wife had gone into the bathroom, and so essentially, she had come walking out, and she was walking towards the other side of the warehouse, essentially, the other side of the building, and she. I don't know what she was doing, but the camera caught her. And then about 7 seconds later, another person, real short person, comes walking out. And it's a short male. I mean, he's probably about 5 feet tall. And he comes walking out of the bathroom area. And I'm like, what the hell? Who's that? And I showed it to the people. They're like, oh my gosh, that's the original owner of the building, the guy that died in the fire. And I'm like, holy crap, we got an apparition. So we got several apparitions in that location. We got another one up in the room above where the cafe was, because there was 3 levels, and essentially you just see this silhouette. There's a metal beam, and you see this silhouette kind of go like this and turn the corner behind the beam. I'm like, what the heck? And never showed up again. It just set the motion sensor off. And we checked to make sure there was no cars coming by, nothing. Because one of the other cameras in the other locations, this building was like 5,000 square feet. It wasn't small, but it was stacked on three stories. So essentially, you just see this. You can see cars coming by up in front because you can see out the windows. And we were able to prove that it wasn't a car. But yeah, I mean, we caught... like walking up there, you could hear people walking, you could hear things being moved, you could hear people working. Sometimes you could hear music being played, but the band wasn't playing. There was nobody there. We left the DVR system running while they were gone, and you could see like somebody behind the bar at one point. You couldn't make out who it was. It was just a black silhouette. And then in the morning, about 2 hours later, you could see one of the guys who was setting up the bar come in. And you could clearly see him, but you couldn't see this other entity. It was just kind of a dark silhouette, transparent, a little bit transparent. And God, we got a lot of activity in that location. Just a really cool location. Found out that the other side, where the pool ball was, used to be an old firehouse. In fact, Navasota was one of the first cities to ever build underground waterways, so they could basically pump water out every time it rained. It would go in there and get stored. Aquifers. They had aquifers underneath the town, and so they could pump this water back out and put fires out. That's basically I think they had one of the first fire hydrants and stuff like that. So just really cool city, really cool little area. Another place we went was the what was that called? It was out in brain farting. Was another hotel that we had a lot of activity. I mean, this place, I've never had so much activity in a place before. What was that called? Woodbine Hotel out in Madisonville, Texas. We were out there, and the previous owner, the owner now has basically removed all the ghosts. Unfortunately, we went out there to try and see if we could go back out and start another, build another relationship with that owner. And she said, "Oh, I kicked all the ghosts out. Don't worry, there's nothing here." And basically, unfortunately, we went and improved it. But so we were in there, and we had a spirit box at this point in time. We didn't have a ghost box, and if you've ever heard a spirit box, it's really annoying. It makes a bunch of white noise, and is just really, really annoying to listen to. And basically, the theory behind the spirit box is spirits can use that white noise to create a voice or create a noise to communicate. And if you ever get a spirit box, make sure you get rid of that little speaker it comes with, the Hack-a-Shack box, the little tiny ping pong speaker. Make sure you get rid of that and get an attachment for another speaker. You can buy like a female to female, where you can plug it into the side of another speaker. As soon as we did that, the spirit box became a much better tool. To be honest with you, you could actually understand what it was saying when spirits used it and voices came through. But so we're in there, and we're just working our way through, and I think we're out in the dining room, because this hotel had burned down. It was built in 1904. I think it burned down in 1908. Was rebuilt. It was a much bigger hotel originally, and I think it had like 30 rooms, and then they rebuilt it. The owner rebuilt it, and rebuilt the kitchen, but only had about 10 rooms or something like that at this point. But a beautiful hotel, great looking location. Madisonville is also known for a lot of paranormal activity. I mean, you got Bigfoot out there, you got Dogman out there, hauntings, UFOs, you got everything out there. It's part of the Texas Triangle. So anyways, we're in the dining room, and we're sitting there, and I think there was like 8 of us, and we're sitting at a table, and we had the camera facing us, and this little girl who we believe to be the daughter of the original owner, was very mischievous and really liked to mess with stuff. She kept turning the camera off. The camera just kept dying. The battery kept dying. I had brand new fresh batteries, fully charged, and I kept, I learned a long time ago, you got to keep your batteries charging, even though when you're at investigations. Otherwise, if something dies, you won't have another fresh battery. So I pull out another battery, I put it in, and the spirit box is on, and I just popped a fresh battery in there, and it went on for a second. As soon as I sat down, I could see the camera in the front, little red light flashing saying it was recording. It died again, and I said, "Who turned off the camera?" And this little girl goes, "Me," through the spirit box.
Wow.
And I'm like, "Oh, you little brat." So, yeah, but we actually came across 8 intelligent haunts. One's name was Ezekiel, and he was part of the Underground Railroad. He had come there. This house had been used, this hotel had been used as part of the Underground Railroad for slaves to get away. And so there was hiding places. There was kind of different trap doors and stuff in this place, especially up in the attic where they could hide. So we're sitting there, and I'm like, Ezekiel, that's a very interesting name to come through a spirit box. That definitely wasn't coming from any kind of channel or anything, any kind of radio station. And we talked to Ezekiel, and we asked him, who he was, and he said a slave, and then he said he used to work at the Woodbine, and he had gone to New York and fought for the North and stuff like that. And then and all this stuff came through us pretty clearly. We recorded audio. We had an audio recorder right next to the speaker, and of course we had a video camera recording us. And so he told us that he had been working there for a long period of time and he really loved the hotel and that's why he was still there. And he really liked having us there. We came across a little boy named Danny who was in the bar area and he was extremely playful. He really enjoyed playing. And he really liked to light up the K2s and stuff like that. And his name came through several times through the box. And in fact, we actually, when we went to reveal the evidence to the client, the current hotel owner or the previous current hotel owner, we sat down with her and we turned the spirit box on and we're like, let's show you what was going on. And so, of course, Danny came through. Danny came through and he was laughing and he likes to play hide and seek and he wanted us to come find him. And so, we basically, the owner did that with him. She got up and kind of walked around. Okay, where are you? And he would answer, and over here. It was just cool. But talk about intelligence. So I got to spend the night there one night, and another investigator was sleeping in another room, and we both kind of woke up at the same time around 2 a.m. to the smell of what smelled like fresh baking goods. To me, it smelled like sugar cookies. And I'm like, and this went on for like an hour. I'm like, damn, it smells good. It's making me hungry. But there was no kitchen. We went down to the kitchen. There was nothing on. You couldn't smell anything down there. You could only smell it up there. And a lot of the furniture and everything was original to the hotel. It was really cool. It was all antique furniture and stuff like that. So another time we stayed, we were sleeping in one of the other rooms, and the armoire doors just flew open. We're like, what in the world? And like, what is this? And it was just one of the little, I think it was the little girl that lived there, the daughter of the owner. She liked to mess with the doors. And so I put something in front of it to block it. And all of a sudden, we were sleeping, we hear a bang, and then all of a sudden we look up and the doors are wide open. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, okay, And so that same little girl, she was very mischievous. She wasn't, bad in any way. She was just mischievous. When we were down there doing the EVP sessions in the dining room, another couple, they were a newlywed, and we were basically given the keys to the hotel for the night, and told to lock up when we left and whatever. So this other couple was also staying there that night, and they didn't know anything about the ghost hunting or anything like that, and they were, on their honeymoon. And so they were staying in the daughter's old room, and I had gone in there before they got there and had a full-on conversation, and she told me to get out. This is my room. And so through the spirit box, I'm like, okay, I'll leave you alone. And so they stayed in that room that night, and I guess while they were in there, they hear knocking at the door. And the little girl said, let me in, let me in. And so they got up and locked the door, and this little girl proceeded to jiggle the handle back and forth and got louder and louder. We didn't hear any of this. We were downstairs. And she said, this is my room. You need to get out. This is my room. They got up and left. They came down, and I was in the restrooms or something, and they told my wife what had happened. And they're like, did you guys come bang on the door? One of you guys? And I'm like, no, we've been down here all night. And she's like, oh, they're like, okay, we're out of here. It scared the heck out of them. So, but yeah, we came across an old Republican governor that had frequented the Woodbine because they used to use it as the Republican. It was kind of like a rally for the Republicans. They did it every year, and he was like the lieutenant governor or something of Texas at that point. And so his name came through. I can't remember what his name is off the top of my head, but I did some research. I found him. I actually found him and found out that yes, he had been to the Woodbine multiple times, but his name came through. So I was like, damn, okay, cool. And I think we had 5 or 6 other people that came through. And if you've ever used a spirit box, you know how unreliable those things are and how crappy the sound is, even with a good speaker and whatever else. And to have the speaker just, that white noise just all of a sudden stop and go quiet, and you're like, okay, did the battery drain? Something wrong with it? And then a voice to come through clearly, like I'm talking to you. That's pretty insane. And so, it's like, okay, yeah, but yeah, just really crazy. Just had a lot of cool experiences out there. I think that was probably one of my favorite places I've ever been, because the spirits all there were there. Excuse me, were extremely friendly, and very interactive, and really enjoyed us being there, and we really enjoyed interacting with them and stuff. So, but yeah, we could hear people walking around upstairs when there was nobody there. You could hear like a door close one time. It was like, and we got up and we all walked up there. Like, okay, a couple people stay down here by the front door because that's the only way out. Let's just make sure there's nobody, playing games with us. And no, there was nobody there. So, yeah, but I mean, we had a few more names, and whoever they were smart enough to talk through the box. They literally would come through and say their names and whatever else. So, I mean, it was like, damn. It was pretty, the voices that came through were pretty clear, and they would actually interact with us and tell us their names and talk to us about things, and if you can get that to happen on a spirit box, that's pretty damn good, where you can understand it, because I mean 99% of what comes through a spirit box is usually just gibberish. At least with mine it is. I don't know about other people's. The ghost box is, like I said, is just so much better. But we also went out to a jail out in Huntsville. Huntsville, Texas is very, very haunted. And this is an old county jail. It's not a federal, it's a county jail. And it's now what's called the Cat Cafe. Really good coffee, by the way, if you ever want to go out there. And everybody's really nice, really cool location. So I left a card there, and the lady called me back. She's a skeptic, right? So she's like, well, come on out. We'll have you check it out. We've had a couple strange things happen. Let's just see what happens. And so we were upstairs in the jail, and we were in one of the cells, and all of a sudden voices start coming through. And we started asking questions and I think we were using the ghost box at this point. And voices are clearly coming through. And her face just goes, just like totally tense, and she's like, oh, she's in shock. She's like in disbelief. She's like, oh my gosh, maybe ghosts are real. And so she started asking questions, the only questions she would know, because she did a lot of history. She researched a lot of the history and stuff about the jail, because she was very interested in it. And they did a lot of work to get that location restored back to what it is now. They spent a lot of their own money and time and energy to really make it into a really cool location, because it was pretty run down when they first took it over. It was literally the living quarters on the jail were downstairs, and then upstairs was actually the jail area. And I'm pretty sure they've hung several people from that location at that location. This jail is probably from the mid 1900s all the way through the early 80s is when it was open. It was only open for like 60 or 70 years, but a lot of things happened up there. We were in the where were we? We were in one of the cells. I think there's 10 cells. I think there's 5 on each side. The first one, when you first walk up, there's a couple cells when you first come up the stairs, and then you have to kind of turn and go to the left, and there's another, little opening, and then there's the cells are on that side. Actually, I think there's about 15 cells, to be honest with you. But anyways, the cells that are all together, the block that's all together, the front area has, if you're looking at the wall and you kind of go right or left, there's 2 bigger cells where they would take showers, use the restrooms and stuff like that, and eat. There's like a bench that's probably about 12, 13, 14 feet long, a metal bench where they would sit and eat. And and there's a little viewing area, so you could basically get locked in there and have visitors come and talk to them. So we're on that other side. We're on the opposite cell of the first one we went into, and this is a while later. And we have been doing a whole lot of stuff. She figured out that they like coffee, and so she would bring them coffee every day, just a little tiny bit in special mugs for them. And she has done a really amazing job of developing a relationship with entities up there. We know there's at least 15 that we've come across that still haunt the jail for some reason. For some reason they don't want to leave. Anyways, we're up there and we're using I think we're using the ghost box. And I left the ghost box and I forgot to turn the camera off. And I had an audio recorder. I had like 7 or 8 K2s laid across the table. And we left trigger objects. Cigarettes, chewing tobacco, dip. I think we had, I forget what else there was. But I brought some snacks. Snacks, treats basically for myself. I had M&Ms. I had a Snickers bar. I think I had something else in there, a bottle of water. And so I started pulling out trigger objects and laying them on the table next to the K2s. And as I start laying them down and she set the coffee down, the K2s just lit all the way up and stayed lit up. And there's no electricity up at the top upstairs, right? It's all cut off. It's all been cut off. And so essentially these items just start, the K2s just start going crazy. And every time I had like 7 or 8 of them set across, one here. They're about a foot apart from each other. And every time I set something next to the K2, that thing would go crazy. It would light up, stay all the way lit up for a second or two, and then go down, and then light up again. And excuse my allergies. They were just loving it. And so I set my bag of goodies down at the end of the table, and through the ghost box, you hear something like bag. And I'm like, what? What's in the bag? And I'm like, what? No. I'm like, you can't have that. That's mine. And so one of the girls that was, I think it was the daughter of the owner, she pulls out my M&Ms, and all the K2s went absolutely berserk. And I'm like, oh, damn it, there goes my M&Ms.
Wow.
So I left them for them. I set them on the table, and they just love that. And then I think I pulled out like a Snickers, and they like that too. So we figured, that shows intelligence. If they can tell you there's something in that bag that they want, but yeah, so I ended up getting that, and then people would started bringing them things every time they'd come in, and not just coffee, but they would refresh the cigarettes every once in a while. I think like once a month she would put a brand new cigarette, open up a cartridge of cigarettes and set a cigarette down for them, and chewing tobacco, stuff like that. And then she'd bring like a musical instrument. Somebody brought a musical instrument up to one of the cells because one of the guys used to like to play guitar. And so I think I wasn't there, but she said that she was in that cell and she just put the guitar down for the entity that basically the guy that liked the guitar that used to play music, and she heard it string. She heard it strum, like the lyrics came through it, and she's like, oh, okay. And so she's like, that makes you happy. And she heard it again, and it's like, okay. So she really got to know the entities there, and so every time we went out there, the K2s would go ballistic, especially if we started asking questions and stuff like that. And just a cool location. And the more we did the research, the more activity there was. And so, yeah, I haven't been back there for a while because I've been focused more on my Bigfoot research recently. But yeah, definitely some crazy places out here. I mean, if you guys are ever in Texas, definitely a cool place to come check out.
Yeah, I was wondering, Matt, so have you ever had a situation where you caught, or you heard and then also caught The same voice, not the same time, but different times, saying different things. Because I had a case once, not an investigation, but just experiences, where I heard a voice with my ears one night in a location, and then days later, I was on a phone call with somebody, and we both heard what was the same voice.
Wow.
And then a decade later, I ended up going back to the same location, and a friend, um, we kind of knew the place had activity in it, and the friend did a EVP recording in their room because they were hearing bumps and bangs, and it's a huge story. I won't get into here, but this place is just had all kinds of activity. But and they caught that same voice over a decade later, saying, "Looking for the one named James."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was just curious if you ever had, something similar happen like that, because to me that's fascinating.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people actually contact me, and when I was at Black Star Canyon, I was literally out there almost every day for I don't know how many years, 8, 9 years, and people kind of knew me as that ghost hunting guy. They never knew my name, but some of my friends that continued on doing research out there, um, they would get EVPs of "Where's Matt?"
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So the last time I went out there, as soon as I pulled out the K2, it starts lighting up, and I went out to show a friend because I wanted him to continue the research out there, and he's kind of doing a little bit of it. But yeah, it starts lighting up, and all excited. They were happy to see me. But yeah, I mean, we've had that happen a few times where we hadn't been to a location in a while, and somebody else went in and they get questions, "Where's Matt?" or whatever. Yeah, because I think that spirits can project themselves from place to place. Like if I started
Right.
focusing on one spirit, it might be able to. If I had a ghost box on or a K2, it might be able to project itself here. Like I said, the more I do the research into the paranormal, the crazier it seems to get, and the more, I mean, like I said, the deeper this rabbit hole gets. Um, my life is just kind of like the X Files. I just never know what I'm going to see next.
Yeah. I hear
I
you.
mean,
Similar.
yeah.
Yeah, I bet. I got
I
a
mean,
question from the chat. Are
good.
your dolls haunted? You said you had haunted stuff in the room there. Is the dolls part of that
Oh yeah.
haunted?
Why are they seeing something move?
Oh, I got I got Merlin in the chat there. Uh, he sensed the kind of things. He knows
Yeah.
about my mask behind me too. I got a couple that's
Yeah.
got something
Well, the
attached to
one
them.
the this one here, she doesn't. Her eyes don't move, but they look real, and they're not glass. But if you look at her, and you kind of move around the room, I should pull her hat back up a little bit. You'll see her eyes literally move. It's pretty crazy. There's an
Wow.
Elmo, not an Elmo. There's a Raggedy Andy doll that looks a lot like the Annabelle doll, and I think somebody stitched it. And he's almost life size. He's like child size, but his face, basically, you can see a face like pop out of his every once in a while, and you'll see it like look around the room. It's pretty creepy.
Oh wow,
So
kind of like
yeah, I mean,
Ghostbusters 2 when Vigor come out of the painting,
yeah, something
come
like
out,
that. Yeah,
something like that,
his
similar.
his yeah, but yeah, a lot of these little girls up here, they not. Let's see. One of them, I think it's the one with the curly hair.
Hmm.
She's right. She's the second doll over. She's said to be very. Yeah, she basically is I don't want to insult her, but she's very active at night. So she comes and walks around the house. And my niece was walking by this room, and she heard a little girl's voice. Hi.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Scared the living bejesus out of her. She looked at me, looked in the room, and ran into the living room where we were. I'm like, don't worry, she's just playful.
Hmm.
But yeah, some items on that shelf have, just like the spectacles, the old theater spectacles have a woman attached to them. My wife has seen her in her dreams. I've actually seen her too in my dreams. She used to love to go to the theater, and so she's attached to the spectacles. There's an old razor up there. that I got from an antique store. A lot of these dolls here I took out of circulation just because I didn't feel like it was safe to leave them in circulation. I don't think they're anything negative or anything bad, but I just don't want any little kid to pick that up and have any kind of
Yeah.
experience. The Howdy Doody doll I bought myself, so he's not haunted, but a lot of the other ones are. The Elmo doll, he's not. He's just something I bought to go as a prop to go into a location. But he does actually laugh and jiggle his leg every once in a while. Um, let's see. There's the Raggedy Andy doll. And then
I have a
kid
friend.
here, the little baby, going the wrong way. Oh, there she is. That little doll we picked up from somebody. That's a really old doll. She's
wow.
extremely fragile. But yeah, that Andy doll, you'll see like a face pop out of his face. And of course, the alien's not haunted, but another doll in front of him. I just got him a companion doll, essentially. So, but yeah, a lot of the stuff on that shelf is haunted.
That's
I have a
interesting.
I have a friend that had a girlfriend, and that the mom had just shelves in a room full of dolls, and apparently one day they were both there in the house, just themselves, my friend and his girlfriend,
Okay.
and they started hearing this knocking or bumping sound, and they went in that room, and all the legs of all the dolls were going forward and backward and tapping the shelves like all at
Wow.
once, just right on time. And they got out of there, which I don't blame them, but
Yeah.
really weird.
That's why
15,
a lot of
20
people
years
won't
ago,
mess
that
with
was
balls.
scared the hell out of me. Today, I would have been like, "Where's my camera? Let me get my phone on that. Let me
Yeah.
document that." Yeah, not much scares me anymore, except for what's in the woods.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, I used to be more. I more and more now. As the older I get, the more like situations I've had happen to me, and kind of it kind of imbutes you
Right.
a little bit. And like I've had I've recorded a voice. I was sitting there recording a pre-recorded for one of my shows, and all of a sudden I had a hello right beside me, and it had been close to me, kind of deal. And I was thinking about it, like the you were talking about Civil War and stuff like that. I was wondering if you've been to a bunch
Right.
of Civil War battlefields and stuff like that, because a lot of them are really, really haunted. I went to
Yeah.
Shiloh
Mm-hmm.
last year, or yeah, no, year before last, with my mom and dad and everything. And I've told a story on the show, but it still freaks me out sometimes, or just it just amazes me, because we were riding along. We had the radio completely off, everything, windows down, and I was creeping like 5 miles an hour or something like that, just slow as the Jeep could go. And me and my mom was in the front seat, my dad and my brother in the back, and all of a sudden we heard like trumpet music very faintly coming across the end, and I heard it, and I'm like, uh, what in the hell was that? All I could think about it, I was like, what in the world was that? And then my mom
Right.
turned and looked at me, and she's like, you heard that too, didn't you? I was like, yeah, I heard it too. And so she heard it, and then I guess I had to look on my face like, what in the world is here? And 40 minutes later, we heard faint cannon fire um, at the same
That's
location.
crazy.
And we didn't see anything. I know I've heard stories of people taking pictures and catching, soldiers walking through the woods. But that day was super, super wild, because, like I said, I don't know my brother and my dad, and they didn't say nothing in the back seat. They didn't say a
Yeah.
word. I don't know if they heard it or not, or it was just me and mom. Because
Mm-hmm.
and then that's when later on I found out, like, kind of run for a long line of sensitive people, I guess you say. And,
Right.
I didn't realize it until I was talking to mom, and I started like doing these shows, and she listened to some of them, and she said, "Oh, by the way, I'm trying to get her to come on and tell stories. I'm
Yes.
still working on it."
Yeah. Well, Amanda, my wife, also grew up with the paranormal, and she's got a lot of stories. She's going to be doing her own podcast here soon on our podcast. It'll be adding a third show to our podcasts. and then she wants to interview people like her mom. Her mom grew up with paranormal as well. They were more open to it. My parents, my dad was non-believer. My mom was heavily Catholic, but my mom and dad never told me, ghosts don't exist. They just let me experience it, and I don't think they realized how much it affected my childhood because I grew up with them. I mean, they literally would open and close the closet door. I had a bunk bed, and my pillow would fly out from. I was on the top bunk, would fly out straight out, end up at the at the bottom of the stairs. And one night I went to crawl on my tummy, reached down and grabbed the pillow because I could reach it if I was careful. I went to pull on it, and it yanked back. And this creepy
Wow.
little girl's voice came. I'm like, oh my god! I slept on my arm that night, underneath the sheets. It was probably about 5 or 6 at that point. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, never like that. If you've ever seen the movie The Sixth Sense,
Yep.
um, I had my bunk bed. The bottom bunk would actually turn out to an L, and then the dresser would go in the middle, and I'd do a fort. Basically make a fort out of it. I put a sheet over my top from the top bunk bed down, and then one back across the other way, and I have the light inside. And 2 o'clock in the morning, I just see this silhouette go across the sheet, and I'm like, oh my god,
Wow.
that was creepy.
Yeah.
I bet.
And the closet door would open and close and stuff like that, and I could hear people walking. I could see shadows walking around my room, and it always freaked me out. I always had to sleep with the hall light on, and it drove my parents crazy. But I had to do it because I couldn't sleep with in complete darkness. I was terrified. I could hear voices. I could hear them talking, the whispering. Oh yeah, they did the whole thing on me. And then as I got into my teenage years, this is right before I met my wife. For the first couple of years before, when I was a freshman in high school through my senior year until I met her, um, I lived in a house of demonic activity, and friends would never come back over and spend the night and stuff like that. Closet door would open, close on its own. Footsteps. Literally seeing that house. My dad built that house, and the floor didn't have any popcorn ceilings or anything, so it's smooth and flat. And you could literally see. One night we literally saw from where my brother's room was. You could see somebody walking, across and basically out my door. Footprints coming through the ceiling. And my friend's looking up at it, and mom looking up at it. I didn't say anything. I didn't even know he was awake. And he goes, Matt. I'm like, yeah. He's like, are you seeing that? I'm like, yeah. He never came
Wow.
back. But yeah,
Well, if you ever need a guest, sorry, if you ever need a guest for your shows, someone that has experiences, I'd be happy to join you sometime
yeah,
because I've had,
I'm always
you know,
looking for guests.
tons. So
Send me an email, and we'll get you
sounds good.
scheduled. Yeah, but yeah, we interview a lot of people. Yeah, like I said, I grew up with this crap, and then when I met her, that's actually when I started. I turned the table on her. I mean, I turned the table on the ghosts and the demons. Um, she, used to come over, and I'd see this cloaked figure, hooded cloaked figure with a skull for a face and bony fingers. And so one night I called her. I don't remember exactly what had happened, but I called her I used to spend the weekends by myself in the house. Like it's 5,000 square, almost 6,000 square foot home, huge home. Um, and my brother played baseball and he traveled a lot. And so basically I went down into downstairs and I ran outside. I'm like, I'm not going back in there. And she's like, well, no, you need to go up. You got to go back in. I'm like, what? No, I'm not going back in there by myself. And she's like, no, you got to go back in there. And my dad had spared no expense on this house, right? This is back in the late 90s. Yeah, mid 90s, early 90s. And so you see the wood slats of the blinds like go like this. They go up, like somebody's looking out, and you can see a cloaked figure looking out. And I'm like, look. And she's like, okay, well, you got to go face that. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm not going back in there. And she took me back in there, and she's like, you can't be afraid of this. And so, little by little, I learned not to be afraid of it, and that's when I started ghost hunting when I was 19. I went up there with my dad's audio recorder and a little cassette tape, like I was talking about, and the handheld, VHS recorder. I'm by myself in this house. The third story is basically wide open. It has really steep peaks because my dad wanted to make a third level, but unfortunately the HOA where we were said you couldn't have a third story for some reason. So, anyways, he wooded everything up there, but you could hear people walking around up there. You hear doom, doom,
Yeah.
doom, 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 like somebody was walking around. I'm by myself in the house, and so I went up there one 9 o'clock. Went up into my brother's loft, and then across into the room above my room, and I'm looking around, and I'm going, "What the hell?" And I did my first EVP session. I had no idea what I was doing, but I essentially recorded some audio on his cassette, and he was a lawyer at that point in time, so he would dictate to his secretary, and then take the tape and stick it on a piece of paper and have his secretary essentially type this out. And he comes walking in the next day after they'd gotten back. I think it was like a Monday morning. I was getting ready for school. What is this? I'm like, what are you talking about? He wouldn't play it for me. There was something on there that scared the living crap out of him, and that was pretty interesting to have that, happen. Because I took the tape out that he had used to dictate to his secretary that Friday, put a brand new one in, and he thought he went back to listen to it, I guess, and didn't realize what I'd done. And so he's like, "What is this?" And there was some kind of crazy response, and he was freaked out. He was pale white. He was like he'd seen a ghost, but he didn't believe it. Anyways, so yeah, I mean, my wife had several more encounters in that house. They went. I think it was a couple weekends before that had happened. I was sleeping in their room because I wasn't allowed to have a TV in my room. There was only two TVs in the house, one upstairs in their bedroom. So I slept in their bed, and I had the dog, and she just looks up, and I don't have this dog anymore. Unfortunately, this is 20 plus years ago, almost 30 years ago, actually. Anyway, so she looks up at the roof, at the ceiling, and she starts growling like something's up there. I'm like, what the hell? I'm looking up, and then you hear boom, doo 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 doo, like somebody had thrown something heavy across the floor and it bounced multiple times. This went on for, it started out like just like low banging noises, and so I had the TV on, turned the TV up a little bit, and as the TV volume went up, this noise volume went up. I thought whatever it was going to bang right through the bottom of the floor up there, because he had put 3/4 inch plywood on throughout the whole upper level. Scared the living bejesus out of me. Went on for like 4 hours. I think I finally fell asleep around. This started around 2, and I think I finally fell asleep around 6 in the morning. And so, yeah, that scared the living bejesus out of me. I absolutely hated living in the house. But yeah, I mean, since then we got married about 7 years later, and she's been with me through all kinds of craziness, and every single apartment we've ever lived in has had weird activity and stuff like that. There's this one apartment where we lived in Laguna Hills where we tried to get roommates every once in a while, and nobody would stay in this room. It was always cold. In the middle of summer, it was really warm in the house. We didn't run the air conditioning because we couldn't afford it. But this one room was freezing cold. And the door one day just started swinging back and forth and back and forth. There's no air conditioning on. There's no fans on. There's no nothing. And it's just swinging back and forth. And there's this knocking, just nonstop knocking. I'm like, what is that? And so I stopped the door, I closed the door, and it opened back up on its own and started doing the same thing. I'm like, what is this? Excuse me. But yeah, I mean, it's just nonstop. I was like, holy crap.
So I have a question about recording, and I know you said you started off with actual tapes or micro
Yeah.
cassettes, and then obviously eventually you went to digital. What have you found? Does one work better at capturing things than the other, or does it matter so much?
Well, I think originally the older audio recorders, whether they were the VHS, or if they were just cassette tapes or even a digital recorder back in the day, they didn't have as many filters,
Hmm.
especially the cassette tapes. If you listen back, the audio wasn't as good. Definitely not as good, not as crystal clear as it is now. But it
Right.
was definitely, if you caught something, you could definitely hear it better. Very rarely did I ever, listen back, and at that point you basically only just played it back on the cassette tape. So it was clanky and made a lot of noise, and EVPs were really hard to. If you could hear them, they were really hard to understand. When we got to digital, it was just like night and day clarity.
Yeah.
Even though the clarity was still not that great. My first audio recorder, again, like I said, it was a Sony audio recorder, and it was pretty good. And yeah, the quality was much better. But a friend of mine got an Olympus, and so I think that's what we ended up switching over to, was an Olympus. And the quality was, the audio got even crisper. Um, but yeah, back in the day, that there wasn't nearly as many filters. Nowadays, the audio recorders, even the phones and whatever else, have so many filters on them. It makes me wonder if they're actually able to manipulate that at all.
Right.
My theory is that spirits are just energy. We're all just
Yeah.
energy, and our brain's like a computer, and the rest of our body's just like an engine. We consume food to create energy. Spirits need to pull that energy either out of the air or from some kind of electric device, or they need to pull it off of us or whatever. And I think that they're able to manipulate the audio recorders, the video cameras, the pictures, whatever you're using, the ghost box. I think that they're able to manipulate whatever's inside of there electronically. That's why we don't see it. I
Hmm.
mean, people that are sensitive, psychic, whatever you want to call yourself, um, I think that they manipulate our brain waves to be able to see them, feel them, hear them, smell them, whatever they're doing. I think they're able to manipulate us in some way to experience them. I know not everybody does. I think that people that don't experience them just maybe have a different, little bit of a, maybe of a different mindset, or maybe they're not as able to manipulate their brain waves as much as other people. I know I've been told by several psychics that if you dream of something or somebody that you've never met before, and you can remember the dream in the morning, there's a very good chance it was a ghost communicating with you, trying to
Hmm.
tell you something. Because if you remember, our brains shut down about 99% of the way. Only the frontal lobe stays on, and the part that, they say that the part that is memory, that records things throughout our day or whatever, our memories basically shut down at night too. I've just recently found out that that's not quite true, because that's why you don't remember your dreams. If you're in the waking process, supposedly your brain is starting to wake up, you can still remember things, supposedly. So I thought that was pretty interesting that they had said that. But
Yeah. I'd I'd say almost half, maybe even more than half of my anomalous experiences have taken place while I've been asleep.
yeah,
They've the dream state was the gateway, or the transition, or I don't know, something, some way that led to out of body experiences, astral projection, after visitations from deceased loved ones, all those kinds of things. I've had a
yeah,
lot of experience with that, and
yeah,
so that doesn't surprise me.
yeah. Well, when you're sleeping, you're the most vulnerable. Your
Right.
body's, your defenses are mainly shut down. You're not aware of what's going on around you. Only thing on is your brain's just basically barely operational, to basically make sure that you stay alive. Your subconscious basically monitors your breathing and moves you every once in a while, and stuff like that to make sure that your body knows that it's still alive. When you move, basically that's just your body's response to make sure that you know that that it knows that you're still alive, essentially. Um, so
Right.
yeah, I imagine if somebody wanted to manipulate you, it'd be real easy to do.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this stuff, a lot of paranormal, quote unquote paranormal things, they are some kind of telepathy or mind to mind contact, even if the other mind does not have a physical form, it's
Yeah.
still there. And and the reason I think that is, and I won't go too deep into this either because I really love hearing what you had to say, but my very first, as far as I remember, my very first paranormal experience, I saw something at the same time that my cousin did. We were both looking across his basement of his house that they had just moved into, and we were both seeing the same thing. The problem is, I was born legally blind. I'm extremely
Oh.
nearsighted,
Oh.
and yet I was still seeing exactly what he was seeing, across all the way across from one end of the basement almost to the other. And so, to me, the only way I can figure out that that could have happened is it was some kind of contact, some kind of mental communication or projection
Hmm.
that I was picking up on or being sent to be able to see what I did see.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So I think a lot of this does have to do with energy, obviously, but also thought and thoughts and projecting those thoughts, out there.
Yeah. Well, energy is very powerful, and emotions and stuff like that. I mean,
Hmm.
I think that a lot of places, when bad things happen, it leaves a scar on those locations and stuff like that. I mean, if you look around here, we were talking about, the Civil War earlier, but the Mexican American War was fought here in this area. Um,
Right.
my area, I know that they had the settlers and the Native Americans had very, very violent encounters, not only where I live, but all around this area in the Brazos, excuse me, Valley. And, parts of the Civil War were fought in Texas, not in this area. But people do see Civil War soldiers here for some reason. I don't know why, and stuff like that. One of the apartments that, or not the apartments, one of the houses we rented when we first moved here, we didn't know if we wanted to stay or not, but we lived there for a year. We had a lot of strange activity, and somebody said they saw a Civil War soldier uh, walk out of one of the bedrooms. I was like, oh,
Mm.
okay. I never saw it, but I mean, not to say that they didn't. Um, yeah, who knows? But of course, there was also something else that lived there as well that wasn't so happy, and I dealt with that. So I took care of that before we left. But yeah.
I was
Anyways,
so Civil War soldiers and stuff like that. They went. A lot of them went out west
yeah.
after the Civil War. So I could see that, especially even if there wasn't even a battle there, a lot of them brought
Mhm.
that essence and the energy back to
Right.
them, and then wherever they went. So
Well, the South took the Civil War pretty hard. I mean, people today still talk like the Civil War just happened here in Texas. It's hilarious, um, to hear people talking about the North. They still don't like the North.
Right.
It's like the Civil War was almost like 200 years ago. But oh yeah, they don't like the North here. They don't like people from the North.
yeah,
It's pretty
it's a
sad.
different culture and different. I mean,
Oh
it is
yeah,
a
when we
different
first
culture up
got
north
here,
to here
yeah,
and to the south. I live in the
yeah,
south, and
we've traveled all over the place. My wife and I throughout. I've been through almost every single state, and yeah, the different cultures in the different states is pretty interesting. Um, so yeah, But yeah, there's just a lot of activity in Texas for some reason. I mean, those guys coming back after the Civil War, they had to kind of pick up everything and start all over again because they lost everything during the Civil War, and the emotions and all that energy and all that stuff. I mean, it's crazy.
It was. I mean, it was. I went and walked around when I walked around Shiloh, and I recorded a video and stuff like that. And then biggest thing I kept saying on it was, it was brother versus brother a lot of times. Some brothers they split the family. Some went up north and fought with the
Right.
Union, and some fought with the South. And
Right.
and you're, and you could possibly killed your own sibling
Yep.
just over
Yep.
that. And it's that bringing that trauma with them. I could see it,
Hmm.
see it coming back and haunting them.
Well, imagine, how barbaric that war was back then. I mean, you literally walked into cannonballs firing at you, and you
Mm-hmm.
basically just would walk into gunfire. I mean, you marched right into it. I mean, it was pretty
Absolutely.
much suicide.
It's
And
crazy how they did it. It don't like even if you
yeah,
watch the old, the British, and all the where the soldiers marched, and it just it's like, man, that don't make sense, especially with guns.
right.
You're just marching into it, and you're taking this battle. I know with I did my research like on Shiloh. Shiloh was it was like a cloudy, real bad like cloudy day, so the smoke stayed in, so like they
Hmm.
couldn't even see each other for like 3 days. It was the smoke, some all the cannon fire smoke stayed there in the ground level, and so it was lots of people killing their own people. Even the Union killing Union people, and Confederates killing Confederates, and it's um it's just terrible. I hope we never get to that point again as in this nation, but
Definitely.
it's
Well, the
it
way
was.
they died too. Most of them, it took them days to die.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, they lost a leg and they basically bled to death, or they, got a wound and died of an infection or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, and died of starvation, died of frostbite because a lot of them, they didn't have shoes or they didn't have jackets or they didn't have heavy,
Especially on the
stuff.
Confederate side, they really didn't
Hmm.
have they didn't have all the materials and stuff like that. They didn't
Hmm.
have, especially near the end. They um, absolutely.
Yeah, they had whatever they had.
Mm-hmm. I'm just
Yeah.
curious. You're saying you've been around. Have you ever done anything around Arkansas?
No, unfortunately, we haven't investigated Arkansas. We used to investigate California. We did parts of Oregon, um, Arizona. We went into parts of Colorado. Um, where else did we go? Nevada. We did a few investigations in Nevada, uh, but we didn't travel that much because we were mainly helping families when I was doing that.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, any chance we get to investigate, we do. But yeah,
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know
that's
up around Hot Springs, Arkansas, it's super haunted
hmm,
because it was a mob town, and
yeah,
um,
yeah.
and they had all the
Well,
bats and plus all that water underneath there because they got all kinds of different streams, and of course
oh
it's
yeah,
hot springs, and it's just that energy there. It's
yep,
you can tell. There's a super haunted. The Arrington Hotel is really haunted, and
yeah. Anywhere with moving water, that just creates energy for them.
and
And
mafia. I mean, mafia connections. There's so many. If you look at any number of older TV shows, like like the original haunted history series or whatever, anything like that. Anytime there's so many of those shows where this area had a huge mafia presence, and there's all these hauntings and
hmm,
apparitions of mafia members or victims of mafia members. Just
hmm,
all that is, yeah, it seems really common. So that doesn't surprise me either.
yeah. Any area where there's been mass deaths and the energy left on the land. I mean, especially like you were talking about Civil War, the battlefields. I mean, and that was I can't even imagine being out there, and seeing that. I remember hearing stories about people essentially on both sides. The South was on one side, the North was on the other of the battlefield the first couple of days, and they expected it just to go a couple of days. They never thought it was going to draw out as long as it did. They thought there would just be one big battle and that was going to be it. And you know, they were just. I remember hearing stories of how they were just freaked out by what they saw and how gory it actually was. And imagine all that energy being left on those battlefields, and you know, the spirits wanting to relive that moment to see if they can possibly win or they can change the outcome somehow. You know, people's lost their lives so quickly that they maybe don't know that they're dead. I mean, that's possibly part of the hauntings there, is
Yeah.
that they don't know that they passed. I mean, I don't remember where you're using a spirit box or an AVP, where I was in I don't know if it was a home or business or somewhere. We were doing an investigation, and I said, you know you're dead, right? And I can't remember if it was an audio recording or a spirit box, but it goes, I'm dead?
Yeah.
They just don't know. They don't know they've passed on. You know, that energy is still there. They're just living like it's still,
It is a strange thing. So many cases you come across that where they don't seem to know that. Others they're very much aware, and they're like you were talking about sort of near the beginning of the show where people for whatever reasons they've found certain locations that they loved in life and were really important to them, and after they passed, that's where they want to be. So often you hear about how there's this idea that if there's a spirit or a ghost in the place, it's stuck there, and I don't think that's the case 100% of the time. I think in many cases it's just that's where they want to be. They know where they're at and they know why they're there, and they you know they're there because they love a place or have so many good memories in a place, or they have connections to the current people there, their relatives. All these. I don't think there's one sort of description of a ghost or a spirit or soul that fits every location and every consciousness that you find in all these locations.
right. And that's very true. I think that each location is a little different. Some are similar, but they're not the same. And
Right.
there's reasons they're still there. And you try and figure out, when you go into these locations, whether it's Bigfoot or ghosts or UFOs or whatever, especially with hauntings or paranormal activity, you're like a detective. You've got to kind of start figuring out what's going on. You got to do your research first. Find out the history of the location. Did anybody pass away there? Did something bad happen there? Maybe something. You have to start peeling away that onion, trying to get to the middle, and then the more information you have when you go to these locations, if I know the name of the owner, or if I know the person that passed away, I know what happened to them. It's like my old analogy where I say, if I walked into your living room and you're sitting there going, okay, who's this guy? And I start asking you a bunch of questions, you're going to be like, no, I'm not answering that question. Who are you? Why are
Yeah.
you in my house? And that's where the get outs come from, mainly. But if I
Right.
come in and say, hey, James, my name's Matt, I know that you passed here, 10 years ago and you died of a heart attack in the house. And I start talking about maybe family members, and I've got other people that you might know. You might be a little more comfortable with me, and you might go, okay, well, maybe I'll talk to this guy. But if you don't have any information when you first go into these locations, you got a 50-50 chance of getting anything. If you have information, you have more like a 70-80% chance, depending on the spirit and what happened and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, and I'm just curious too with what you've been doing, and I know you said you do Bigfoot research. Have you found a lot of areas where there's one type of activity, like spirit activity? There's also Bigfoot and or UFO activity, or are there places where it's just one or another? Or what's your experience been with sort of all the whole range of
so,
anomalous things?
so I have a Google map that I across the United States, and now I'm expanding out into Canada and other places where I drop pins at all paranormal locations, whether it's
Okay.
Bigfoot, Dogman, UFO, hauntings, whatever. I essentially drop pins at these locations. And I started looking the other day. I'm like looking at these locations on the map, and I start dropping all these pins. Or I dropped all these pins, and you got UFOs, you got Dogman, you got Bigfoot, you got hauntings, all in the same location. There's a cluster of pins, all in the same area. Like I figured out that here in Brazos, in the Brazos Valley in Texas, there's a lot of activity between. Basically, we're between. If you go north, you got Fort Worth and Dallas. If you go west, you got San Antonio and Austin. If you go east, you've got kind of southeast, you've got Houston and stuff like that. And then you draw that line back up to the Fort Worth, Dallas area. There's a lot of activity in this area. They call it the Texas Triangle. Excuse me for a second. But yeah, I mean, even East Texas, there's a lot of activity in this area, and so yes, it seems like they all seem to go hand in hand. Like I talked about Black Star Canyon, that was a place I went to for 10+ years. I had like I said, established communication with the ghosts, and then I realized that there's Bigfoot out here too. And after my first sighting, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Started putting two and two together. Oh, okay, that wasn't gunshots, that was tree knocks. And going back, okay, that wasn't the tallest shadow person I've ever seen. That was a freaking Bigfoot walking across the road. And so the more I did the research back into all that stuff, I'm like, oh, crap. And then there's supposedly is UFO activity out there, too. And there's a lot of military activity as well. But, yeah, I mean, these areas, like, I used to go to a guy's property out here. He had 55 acres. His name was Joe. Unfortunately, he passed away. And when he first contacted me, I put an ad on Facebook. I was looking for Bigfoot locations out here. And he responded about 4.5 years ago. And unfortunately, he passed away 2 years ago. Maybe it's 3 now. Anyways, under suspicious circumstances, by the way. And so his property was like a football field, 55 acres. And his family had owned that land. Well, actually, his family owned, I can't remember if he said 500,000 acres or 200,000 acres or something like that. But his area was part of their land. And family and stuff like that had owned it since pre-Civil War, and some of it's still owned by them, and some of it's owned by other people. They've sold it throughout the years, or people have passed away, and there's nobody to pass it to, and they've sold it. He lives up in the Sabine National Forest, and so he responded to my ad. He's like telling me all this stuff, and he doesn't know. I didn't realize he didn't know anything about Bigfoot. Oh, I've got tree bends and tree structures, and I'm hearing howls and screams. Tree knocks. I'm having rocks and stuff thrown at my trailer and stuff like that because he had a travel trailer that he lived in and all this other stuff. And I'm going through, I'm checking off the Bigfoot boxes. And I'm like, what the hell? So I go there one day and I'm like, okay, this is too good to be true, but I got to go check this out. It was about 3 hours from where I live. He's east of us. And that whole area is the whole side of Texas from East Texas through Louisiana is all like paranormal Bigfoot hotspot. Lots of pins out there, thousands of sightings, maybe more than that. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'll come out there and check it out. And basically, that was the night I almost walked into a damn Bigfoot. It was so damn pitch black out there that we he and I, once it got dark, we started walking around. And we figured out that they were bedding down on his property. Even though it was in the middle of the forest, there was sand and stuff like that on his property. Am I still connected?
Yeah, you're still connected. You started kind of looping there for a second.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so his property, like, even though it was in the middle of forest and he had trees, like old trees, 300 or 400-year-old trees throughout his property, the back half of his property, the one side had sandy soil,
Mm. Had a feeling it was about to happen. I was trying to pause his upload. It wouldn't let me. I was like, oh, maybe I can save it. We didn't get it much longer. Hopefully he'll pop back right back in.
That's funny though. It happened when you started talking about. I've heard that once in a while people start talking about certain things like Bigfoot or Dogman or whatever. Some rare cases on shows, different people. Boom. It's like someone somewhere is like, no, you know.
Yeah, it's wild. Almost 2 hours in,
Yeah,
and then boom. We hope he comes,
happens.
hits the link and pops back in. Hopefully, that way we can at least let him shout out and everything. Oh, I hit the button there. What do we do?
But yeah, it's I'm really fascinated by the whole intersection of all these things because it seems to be so common.
Yeah, it seems more and more every day. Like everything, truly everything is connected at some point. You know. Um, yeah, I hope he can pop back in. That's crazy. Almost 2 hours in, and boom.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so tricky because it could just be just technology being technology. It's always, you know, does unfortunate things. And other times it's like, well, why now though? Why at a certain point in the conversation?
Mm-hmm.
It's on that edge of like, is it just the technology acting up? Or is there something else going on? Or something making it act up? It's really weird how that happens. And it just, again, I've heard that over the years in so many shows. I had that happen with a show one time where my audio just completely went. Just was gone, not there for like a minute. And then it came back. As soon as I stopped talking about a certain thing, it came back. I don't know.
Yeah, check and see his email. See if he emailed me real quick. But yeah, hopefully he pops right back on. Um, I know Sweets has dropped a link in the description. I mean, in the chat, we do have his link in the description. So if something happens where he not able to come back on, his dolls don't want him talking anymore. Maybe I don't know, but I don't know if I can have haunted dolls sitting behind me, James.
Yeah, I don't know if I could do that either. As much as I'm into all these things, I don't know. Uh,
And
it's
knowing
tricky.
it's haunted, like
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I got my mask and stuff, and I got good speculation, but but like he's going around collecting known haunted things. Yeah, yeah. I'm not trying to have haunted dolls behind me. Haunted dolls are creepy anyway. They're not haunted. They're just they got these glassy eyes, whatever, and just looking at you, staring at you, and I'm like, oh, I don't know.
You know, yeah. I'm just wondering now, whatever happened with that rocking chair that you got that feeling from, that was
Oh
at
yeah,
like, whatever happened to that? Like, did someone ever get that thing? Or, like,
if they
I
did,
just
they got
really
him a
just,
present.
well, but it depends, because if it's someone that has absolutely zero sensitivity to any of this stuff, it makes me wonder, did someone get it that just is in that situation, has that, I would almost say it's an ability, you know? It's like a
It's a
defense
curse.
something or other. But no, but like they get it and they bring it home and nothing happens. Like, I
Yeah,
wonder if that ever happens with some objects.
I'd imagine. You hear about houses that was completely, really, hot spot and everything, and somebody else moves in and they don't see anything.
True.
So it could be. My little box over here blinked on me. I didn't. Right there in the corner of my eye, I could see, but maybe jerk my head over here. But that people were wondering what I was doing. But yeah, you hear that happening a lot of times. A lot of stories and stuff. Others come back in, they don't have anything. So there's a good possibility. Like anything's possible for sure. And I hope he's able to come back. He has not emailed me or anything. He might have computer issues there all of a sudden, or dropped his internet. Because there's something going on. Because like I said, he was sounding clear as a bell all day, the whole show. Um, I'll make sure. If I don't, James, remind me. I'll make sure you get his email.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, if you don't get it or whatever, I don't send it to you. Remind me, and I'll send you. I'll give you his email and stuff like that. I get it off
Yeah,
his website, I think, if I remember right. But
yeah, because I mean, if he has a thing where he does, interviews with people that have had experiences, I can definitely fill a bunch of his time. That's for sure.
yeah, yeah, I've listened to a few of his shows and stuff like that, and I was like, yeah, that'd be. I thought as soon as I thought about it, seen it, and I thought it'd be fun for sure. He followed the channel the first pair the Beyond the Possible. He followed the channel, and then I've been trying to get him on ever since. Oh, you follow me? I'm gonna get you to come over here and talk.
There you go.
Uh,
Yeah, and he's good at it too. I can listen to him for another couple hours.
yeah, the lower ones are kind of leaning there, Marlon. I'm not sure what's going on with that. They are all four on the bottom there, leaning there. As
Oh,
interesting. The chat. I wish I could have. Um, the chat had some more good questions, or just statements. It was
yeah.
they were really going, but he was he was on a roll. I didn't want to stop him.
No, I know. I try to only like interrupt if I had a really something I really wanted to ask him about because yeah, he. We could have just sat here and not said a thing the whole time, and that's a good thing. I'm not complaining at all.
Oh yeah,
It's
yeah, no.
amazing.
Yeah, no, you could tell maybe he does more shows by himself as he used to talking and just letting it rip. Um, but yeah, I'm glad he able to come on, and yeah, I'll give him another minute or so, and then we'll say our goodbyes. And I do have them little kids. If I don't get up there to the gym at a certain time, them kids will tear my gym apart. I'm sure they'll try to tear it up anyway. And it'll be I got a grappling dummy. Um, I bought a while back, and it's full. I filled it full. It come in empty, and I filled it full of clothes and stuff like that. They let up thing. They beat that thing to death. Throw it across the room and stomp on it, and it's their new favorite thing to just to beat to death. Poor. I told them parents, I was like, this thing lasts a year. I'm gonna put a 5-star review on this thing on there,
Yeah.
uh, and put it on there like, yeah, this thing is badass. One of the other parents bought one. He said, "Where'd you get that, Ricky?" And I showed him where I got it, and he bought one for his son, so he can beat it up at home too. But it's fun. As soon as they come in, take the shoes and socks off, and take off running, and they start grabbing stuff and beating on the thing or beating each other up, swinging little. Like, uh, yeah, I hate that. I hate to poof today. He must be having internet trouble. Like I said, I don't have no. Oh, yeah, I didn't. Oh, I guess he said it looks like Riverside did an update and closed out the show on us. Oh no.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know. Riverside's. I don't know what happened. I told him make sure his browser's updated though. If something happened like that, I don't know. Sometimes if our browser's updated, it does good though. But yeah, I guess we'll call it a day. James, any shout outs and all that, and plug your stuff for sure.
Yeah, just thanks to everyone in the chat there for being here and listening in and commenting and all that. For those that, if there's anyone there that doesn't know me already, my name is James Salsido. I do a podcast called Salsido Paranormal, and I share all kinds of posts similar to what we were talking about tonight that I find online and at my shows, and I cover some other things as well, all things paranormal. And if you like to be on the show with me or submit your own experiences, you can do that and find all the episodes of my show at my website, and that is salsidoparanormal.com, and that's SALSIDO paranormal.com, and that has all my links for everything that I do and ways to support the show and everything. And yeah, just glad to be here as always with you, Ricky, and thank you for having me on.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, could not have you here with, especially with the guests we had.
Oh my gosh, I've been looking forward to this.
And yeah, let me speak of that while we're all right. Come on now. Let me go ahead.
Because
Go
I've
ahead
never,
and
I've never
send you
had the
this one.
chance to talk to a paranormal investigator like that before. Like to be in the same space with them like that. So
Yeah, that's
that
pretty
was
cool. That's
it's
he
amazing.
had a lot of. He's done a lot of. Um, you know, sound like he's probably had hundreds or thousands of hunts and the way it sounds.
Yeah.
And having that big operation out there in California, that must have been insane. Having 30 people working with you and running
Oh my
around. And
gosh. I'd love to be in the center of something like that here in Michigan. Like just, that'd be yeah. Then again, I'd probably have to do less podcasts that way.
oh
Sorry
yeah,
guys, yeah, down
yeah,
to 2 shows a week now.
yeah, it's for sure. He had to balance things out, but yeah, they'd be, um, yeah, but you'd be doing what you love though. That's the main thing.
Oh, true. Yep.
For sure, for sure. But I appreciate everybody being here. I know it's a special Monday lunch show. Alarm clock's going off. Tell me you better pay attention. Um, but like I said, I do appreciate everybody being here. That's why you should like and subscribe. Make sure you subscribe because you never know what's going to happen. We got sometimes like scheduling confidence. Got guests want to come on, had to come on a little earlier. So if I'm available, we're going to let it rip and let them come on. So again, like Sweets has dropped all the links, so make sure y'all check that stuff out. Check out the merch, um, and everything. It's been a fun one, educational one for sure. And then of course, like I said, the chat's been awesome. I appreciate all y'all being here, and we'll be back Wednesday with Talking with Conspiracy for sure. We got all the chaos and stuff going on in the world right now, and so I think we might have the full trifecta in this Wednesday with me and Jamie and Dave. So
Nice.
cross your fingers. We'll sure have a good one. So lots to talk about. I'm steadily collecting stuff and just stuff's happening in the world. So, but it's good to talk about the paranormal and I had a little bit of everything: Bigfoot and UFO and sightings and everything else. So, much love to y'all, and I'll hit that everybody's favorite outro, and we'll get out of here.
Don't want no shackles, Don't want no shackles on me. Don't want no shackles. Don't want no shackles on me. I sat down with Big Brother. Don't like those RFIDs. Got the blues about my freedom. Got the blues about tyranny. I got the blues about my freedom. Got the blues about tyranny. I sat down with Big Brother and the national ID. Don't want a chip in my wallet, chip in my car. And if I want to travel, it's nobody's business how far. Don't want no shackles. Don't want no shackles on me. I said shame on Big Brother, always tracking and tracing me. Don't want a chip in my mother, chip in my wife, a chip in my babies. Stay out of our life. Don't want no shackles. Don't want no shackles on me. I sat down with Big Brother. No more slavery. Play it for me, baby. Now, do you want a chip in your forehead, a chip in your arm, always tweaking your brain and causing you harm? Don't want no shackles. Don't want no shackles on me. I sat down with Big Brother in the good old USA. I sat down with Big Brother, down with Big Brother, down with Big Brother, down with Big Brother, down with Big Brother. Don't want a spy chip in me. Everybody, I sat down with Big Brother, down with Big Brother, down with Big Brother, down with Big Brother, down with Big Brother. It's all about liberty.